Story 1. The Whiteout Mirror. My name is Derek Holloway, and I've been running ice roads in northern Canada for 17 winters. The Tibet to Contwoito Winter Road, stretching 400 kilometers across frozen lakes and tundra in the Northwest Territories, was my regular route. I'd hauled everything from mining equipment to fuel tankers across those treacherous ice highways, and I'd seen my share of close calls. Whiteouts, cracking ice, trucks breaking through and sinking into black water beneath. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on February 14, 2019, during what should have been a routine supply run to the Ekati diamond mine. The day started normal enough. I was driving my 2018 Kenworth T800 with a full load of drilling equipment, about 40 tons worth, leaving Yellowknife at 4:30 a.m. The temperature was holding steady at minus 38 degrees Celsius, cold enough that the ice was thick and reliable. My CB radio crackled with the usual chatter from other drivers on the route. We all knew each other by voice, at least. There was Tommy Chen about 2 hours ahead of me, Maria Kowalski somewhere behind, and a few others scattered along the 400-kilometer stretch. The ice road operates only about 8 weeks per year when conditions are right, and timing is everything. The ice needs to be at least 70 centimeters thick to support a loaded truck, and crews constantly monitor it, drilling test holes and measuring thickness. I'd checked the reports that morning. Everything was green across the board. Portage C7, the section I'd be crossing around hour 3, showed ice thickness at 92 centimeters. Plenty safe. I pulled out of Yellowknife just as the sun was thinking about rising, though in February that far north, sunrise was more of a suggestion than an event. The sky would lighten to a pale gray around 9 a.m., stay that weak twilight color for maybe 6 hours, then fade back to darkness. I'd be driving in near total darkness for the first 4 hours, my headlights cutting through the absolute black of the Arctic winter, illuminating nothing but snow, ice, and the reflective markers placed every 100 meters to mark the road. The cab of my Kenworth was warm, almost cozy. I had my thermos of coffee, a playlist of old country music, and the steady rumble of the engine. The first hour passed without incident. I crossed the initial portage, feeling the slight change in texture as I moved from land to frozen lake. The ice made its normal sounds, the groaning and cracking that always made rookies nervous, but that I'd learned to interpret. These were good sounds, the ice settling and flexing naturally under the weight. It was when the ice went silent that you needed to worry. Hour 2 brought me deeper into the wilderness. The sky had lightened slightly, enough to see the vast emptiness around me. The frozen lake stretched to the horizon in every direction, a perfectly flat white plain broken only by the occasional pressure ridge where ice plates had collided and thrust upward. The wind picked up, pushing loose snow across the surface in sinuous patterns that looked almost alive in my headlights. I checked in on the CB. Tommy was at the Ekati turnoff, making good time. Maria had left Yellowknife about 40 minutes behind me. A few other voices chimed in with their positions. It was comforting, knowing we were all out here together, even if we were separated by kilometers of frozen wasteland. At 7:47 a.m., I was approaching Portage C7. The GPS showed me right on track, and I could see the marker ahead indicating the transition point. The ice road here crossed one of the deeper sections of Lac de Gras, where the water beneath was over 60 meters deep. Not that it mattered much with nearly a meter of solid ice between me and that black water. Then the weather changed. It happened fast, the way it always does up north. One moment the visibility was decent, maybe 500 meters. The next, a wall of white descended like a curtain dropping. Complete whiteout. I couldn't see the hood of my own truck. The marker reflectors vanished. The distinction between ice and sky disappeared entirely. It was like being inside a milk bottle. I'd been through whiteouts before. The procedure was standard. Slow down, watch your GPS, trust your instruments, and whatever you do, don't stop moving. Stopping meant losing momentum, and losing momentum on ice could mean not getting started again. I dropped my speed to 15 kilometers per hour, barely crawling, my eyes flicking between the GPS screen and the windshield. The GPS showed me still on course, centered on the ice road track. My compass bearing was correct. Everything should have been fine. That's when I saw the other truck. It appeared suddenly in my headlights, maybe 30 meters ahead. Another Kenworth looked like a T-800 just like mine, loaded down with what appeared to be identical cargo. I could see the back of the trailer clearly despite the whiteout, every detail sharp and distinct. Same model, same configuration, even the same company markings. My company markings. I grabbed the CB radio. "Breaker, breaker, this is Holloway. Got a truck ahead of me on Portage C7. Anybody else running this section right now?" Static, then Tommy's voice. "Negative, Holloway. I'm at Akati already, unloading. Maria's still an hour south of you. You should have the road to yourself." I stared at the truck ahead of me. It maintained the exact same speed I was traveling, staying 30 meters ahead no matter what I did. When I tapped my brakes, it seemed to slow. When I pressed the accelerator slightly, it matched me perfectly. The whiteout made judging distance difficult, but I was certain of what I was seeing. This wasn't an optical illusion or a snow devil. This was a truck, solid and real, and it was right there in front of me. "Tommy, I'm telling you there's a truck ahead of me, can see it clear as day." A pause. "Derek, there's nobody registered on that section. Check your GPS, make sure you're where you think you are." I looked at the GPS. I was exactly where I thought I was, still on track, coordinates matching perfectly. But according to the system, there was no other vehicle within 50 kilometers of my position. I tried my truck's horn. 3 long blasts. The sound was muffled by the storm, but loud enough. The truck ahead of me hit its horn in response. 3 long blasts, exact same timing, exact same duration. A cold feeling unrelated to the temperature crept up my spine. I tried the CB again, cycling through channels. "Any truck on Portage C7, this is Derek Holloway. Respond, please." Nothing but static. The truck ahead continued at the same steady pace, its brake lights occasionally flashing red in the white void. I could see exhaust from its stack, the snow swirling in its wake. This wasn't a ghost or a hallucination. This was a physical truck, creating physical disturbance in the air around it. But there was something off about it. The more I stared, the more wrong it seemed. The snow patterns in its wake moved strangely, spiraling in directions that didn't match the wind. The exhaust seemed to hang in the air too long, defying the gale, and the brake lights, when they flashed, seemed to flicker in a rhythm that was almost hypnotic. I decided to try something. I flashed my own lights. High beams, low beams, high beams. A simple pattern. The truck ahead responded. High beams, low beams, high beams, perfect mirror. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. This wasn't right. This wasn't possible, but it was happening. The whiteout intensified, if that was even possible. The world had become nothing but white static, and the only solid thing in existence was this truck ahead of me. I found myself focusing on it, using it as a guide through the storm. Its taillights became my markers, my reference point in the void. Minutes passed. Maybe 10, maybe 30. Time felt strange. I checked my GPS. Still on course, still moving forward at 15 kilometers per hour. But something was wrong with the numbers. I should have covered at least 7 kilometers by now, but the GPS showed I'd only moved 3. I tried the CB again. Only static answered. The truck ahead began to slow. I slowed with it, maintaining that 30-meter gap. Its brake lights stayed solid red now, and through the whiteout I could see it was stopping. Every instinct screamed not to stop, never stop on an ice road in a storm. But I couldn't get around it, couldn't see enough to know if I had room to pass. I brought my Kenworth to a halt, keeping the engine running, transmission in gear. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Both trucks sat motionless in the white void. Then the driver's door of the truck ahead opened. A figure climbed down from the cab, human-shaped, wearing what looked like standard cold weather gear. Arctic parka, insulated pants, heavy boots. But there was something wrong with the proportions. The arms seemed too long. The way it moved was off, too fluid, like it had more joints than it should. The figure stood beside its truck for a moment, then began walking back toward me. I locked my doors. My hand moved to the CB, but I couldn't take my eyes off the approaching figure. It walked with an odd, gliding gait, feet not quite seeming to meet the ice properly. The whiteout swirled around it, but it moved through the storm like the wind wasn't there. 20 meters, 15, 10. I could see it more clearly now, and what I saw made my stomach drop. The parka it wore was identical to mine, the same brand, the same color, even the same pattern of oil stains on the front. The figure raised one hand in what might have been a wave. I saw its face. It was my face. Not similar, not just resembling. My exact face, down to the scar on my left cheek from a rigging accident 3 years ago. Down to the crooked way my nose sat from being broken in a bar fight in Whitehorse. It was me, standing outside my truck in a whiteout, staring at myself through the windshield. The thing wearing my face smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, it was too wide, showing too many teeth, and the teeth were wrong, too sharp, too white. It reached toward my door handle. I slammed the truck into reverse. The Kenworth lurched backward, and I heard the cargo shift in the trailer. Dangerous on ice, but I didn't care. I kept my foot on the accelerator, watching my mirrors, steering by instinct and prayer. The figure watched me go, standing motionless, that horrible smile fixed on its face. I reversed for what felt like an eternity, maybe 200 meters before I stopped and threw the transmission back into drive. The whiteout still surrounded me, but the trucks, both of them, had vanished. I was alone in the white void. My GPS had gone haywire. The coordinates were scrambled, numbers flickering and changing. My compass was spinning slowly, unable to find north. The CB was dead static. I made a decision that probably saved my life. I shut off the GPS, ignored the compass, and trusted my instincts. I turned the wheel hard to the left and started driving at an angle to where I thought the ice road had been. If I'd encountered something impossible, something that didn't follow normal rules, then maybe normal navigation wouldn't work either. I drove blind for 20 minutes, watching my fuel gauge, watching the temperature, watching for any sign of thin ice or pressure ridges. The whiteout began to thin. Gradually, like a fog lifting, visibility returned. I saw a marker post, then another. I was back on the ice road somehow, about 12 kilometers further north than I should have been. My GPS flickered back to life, coordinates stabilizing. The CB crackled. "Holloway? Derek Holloway, you there? We lost your signal for a while." It was Maria's voice, concerned. I grabbed the radio with shaking hands. "I'm here. I'm okay. Had some navigation issues in the whiteout. Your tracker went dead for almost 40 minutes. We were about to send someone back for you." 40 minutes. I'd felt like it was 10, maybe 15, but 40 minutes had passed. I completed the run to Ekati, unloaded, and made the return trip in silence. I filed my report mentioning the whiteout and navigation problems, but leaving out the rest. Who would believe it? But I knew what I'd seen. Something out there on the ice had found me, or I'd found it. Something that could mirror me, my truck, my movements. Something that existed in that white void between reality and whatever lies beneath the ice. I still run the ice roads. It's what I know, what I do. But I've never seen that mirror truck again, and I pray I never will. Because sometimes when I'm alone in a whiteout, I wonder if I actually reversed away that day or if something else happened. I wonder if the Derek Holloway who came out of that whiteout is the same one who went in. I wonder if somewhere out there the real Derek Holloway is still driving through an endless white void, following taillights that lead nowhere, chasing a truck that's chasing him for eternity. And sometimes, late at night when I'm crossing a frozen lake, I check my mirrors a little too often looking for headlights that match my own. Story 2. The Echo Road. Rita Kowalski had been driving the Dalton Highway in Alaska for 12 years, hauling supplies to Deadhorse and the oil fields of Prudhoe Bay. The 414-mile stretch from Fairbanks to the Arctic Ocean was one of the most dangerous roads in North America, and Rita had earned her reputation as one of the best drivers on it. She'd navigated through -60-degree temperatures, survived ice patches that sent other trucks careening off into ditches, and once managed to keep her rig upright when a sudden gust of Arctic wind tried to flip her trailer. At 43 years old, with dark hair just starting to gray at the temples, she knew every mile marker, every curve, every dangerous section of the Dalton intimately. March 8, 2021 started as unremarkable as any other run. Rita was piloting her 2019 Peterbilt 389 loaded with 20 tons of drilling pipe destined for a rig north of Deadhorse. She'd left Fairbanks at 11 p.m., preferring to drive through the night when traffic was lightest. Not that there was much traffic on the Dalton in early March. You might see a dozen vehicles in a full run, mostly other truckers, a few workers heading to or from the slope, and the occasional tourist foolish enough to attempt the road in winter. The first 100 miles passed normally. She crossed the Yukon River Bridge at 1:27 a.m., the massive structure eerily beautiful in the moonlight. The temperature outside was -42 degrees, but her cab was warm, heated by the engine and her truck's diesel heater. Rita kept her CB on Channel 19, listening to the occasional chatter from other drivers scattered along the highway. Around mile 115 north of the Yukon River crossing, the terrain became more desolate. The road climbed into the Brooks Range, winding through valleys between mountains that rose like dark teeth against the star-filled sky. This section always felt otherworldly to Rita, especially at night. The moon was 3/4 full, casting enough light to see the landscape in shades of silver and black. No trees this far north, just tundra and rock and snow that went on forever. At 3:15 a.m., somewhere near mile 147, Rita's CB crackled to life. "Breaker 19, this is northbound Peterbilt approaching Adigun Pass. Any southbound traffic ahead?" Rita frowned. That was her voice. Her exact voice, with the same slight Polish accent she'd inherited from her parents. The same cadence, the same phrasing she always used on the CB. She grabbed her radio. "This is Rita Kowalski northbound at mile 147. Who is this?" Silence for a moment, then. "This is Rita Kowalski northbound at mile 147. Who is this?" The words came back to her like an echo, but not quite. There was a delay, maybe 2 seconds, but the voice was speaking simultaneously with her response, not after. It was as if her words and the other voice's words were overlapping, intertwining. "Negative. I'm Rita Kowalski. Identify yourself properly." She tried to keep her voice professional, firm. "Negative. I'm Rita Kowalski. Identify yourself properly." The echo again, overlapping, the timing wrong. Rita felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. She checked her mirrors, scanned the road ahead and behind. Nothing but empty highway stretching into darkness. Her GPS showed no other vehicles within 50 miles. She tried a different approach. "If you're playing games, knock it off. This channel is for legitimate traffic only. If you're playing games, knock it off. This channel is for legitimate traffic only." The same overlap. The same 2-second delay that wasn't quite a delay. Rita switched to channel 14, one of the alternate channels drivers sometimes used. "Hello? Anyone on 14? Her CB immediately responded on channel 14. Hello? Anyone on 14? She cycled through channels randomly. 6, 23, 31. Every single channel. Her own voice answered back, echoing her words with that strange temporal overlap. Rita's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She was approaching Atigun Pass, the highest point on the Dalton at 4,039 feet elevation. The road here was treacherous even in good conditions, winding through the Brooks Range with steep grades and tight corners. She needed to focus on driving, not on whatever bizarre phenomenon was happening with her radio. She turned the CB off. The silence in the cab felt oppressive. Rita realized she'd grown used to the background static, the occasional chatter. Now there was only the rumble of her engine and the whisper of her tires on ice and gravel. She was halfway up the south side of Atigun Pass when she saw the other truck. Headlights appeared in her mirrors, coming up fast from behind. Too fast for the conditions, too fast for the grade. Rita checked her speed. She was doing 45 miles per hour, about right for the weight she was carrying and the road conditions. Whoever was behind her was doing at least 70. The headlights grew larger, closer. Rita could see it was another Peterbilt, same model as hers, same configuration. The running lights had the same pattern. As it pulled alongside her in the opposing lane, Rita's stomach dropped. It was her truck. Not just similar, identical. Same company logo, same dent in the right front fender from where she clipped a guardrail 2 years ago. Same pattern of ice buildup on the grill. She looked up at the driver's side window as the truck passed. She saw herself looking back. The other Rita met her eyes for just a moment, and in that moment Rita saw something that made her blood freeze. The other Rita's eyes were completely black, reflecting the dashboard lights like an animal's eyes caught in headlights. The other Rita smiled, and it was not a human smile. The truck pulled ahead, accelerating up the pass impossibly fast. Rita watched it disappear around a curve, climbing toward the summit at a speed that should have been suicidal. She reached for her CB without thinking, then remembered she'd turned it off. She flicked it back on. Immediately, her own voice filled the cab. "Rita, slow down, don't follow, turn back." The voice was frantic now, desperate. Still her voice, but the emotional tone was all wrong, too intense, too afraid. "Rita, please, you're almost at the boundary. Turn back now." "Who are you?" Rita demanded, her own fear making her voice sharp. "What's happening?" "I'm you. I'm trying to warn you. The summit of Atigun Pass is the boundary. Don't cross it, please. I'm begging you. I crossed it. I shouldn't have crossed it. Turn back." Rita crested the summit, doing 30 miles per hour, too focused on the road to process the warning in time. The moment she reached the peak at exactly 4,739 feet elevation, everything changed. The moonlight vanished, though when she looked up, the moon was still there, still 3/4 full. It just wasn't providing any light anymore. Her headlights seemed to dim, the beams not reaching as far. The darkness crowded in around her truck, thick and tangible. The road ahead looked wrong. It was still the Dalton Highway, she could see that. But it seemed to stretch further than it should, curving in directions that didn't match her memory. The mile markers were the same, but when she passed mile 148, the next marker she saw was mile 148 again. Then mile 148 a third time. She was descending the north side of Atigun Pass, but she couldn't seem to leave mile 148. The CB crackled. "You crossed the boundary, now you're in the echo. This is where I've been. This is where you'll be." "What do you mean?" "What echo?" Rita's voice was shaking now. "The road echoes here. Everything echoes, you'll see." As if on cue, the other Peterbilt appeared ahead of her. Not in her mirrors this time. It was ahead, waiting at the side of the road, hazard lights flashing. As Rita passed it, the truck pulled out behind her, following at exactly her speed, matching her every movement. She watched it in her mirrors. When she tapped her brakes, it tapped its brakes. When she adjusted her lane position, it adjusted identically. It was mimicking her perfectly, but not predictively. It moved at the exact same instant she did, as if they were connected. A third Peterbilt appeared ahead, parked at the roadside. As Rita passed it, it pulled out and joined the convoy behind her. Then a fourth, a fifth, each one identical, each one driven by a version of herself with those horrible black eyes. Soon there were a dozen trucks behind her, all matching her speed, all moving in perfect synchronization. The CB was chaos now, filled with her own voice repeating phrases in various states of desperation. Turn back. You can't escape. We're all stuck here. The road goes on forever. Mile 148, mile 148, mile 148. Help us. There is no help. Rita's mirrors showed an impossible convoy of identical trucks stretching back into the darkness, their headlights creating a chain of light that seemed to extend to infinity. She tried accelerating. All 12 trucks accelerated. She tried braking. They all braked. She was the lead truck in a convoy of her own echoes, trapped in some impossible loop at mile 148 of the Dalton Highway. Hours passed. The mile marker stayed the same. The fuel gauge didn't change. The clock on her dashboard showed 4:23 a.m. and didn't advance. Rita realized she was crying, tears running down her face, but she couldn't remember when she'd started. The CB voices had merged into a cacophony of her own voice, repeating nonsense, warnings, pleas for help. She reached to turn it off, but her hand stopped. One voice cut through the chaos, clearer than the others, more coherent. Rita, listen to me. I've been here longer than the others. I understand more now. Understand what? Rita whispered. The road echoes because we echo. Every fear, every regret, every mistake we've made, it manifests here. The boundary at the summit is thin. Something came through it, or maybe something was always here under the road. It catches people sometimes. It caught us. How do I get out? You have to stop being afraid. That's what it feeds on. The fear creates the echoes. The more afraid you are, the more of us appear. Stop the truck. Face it. Rita didn't want to stop. Every instinct screamed to keep moving. But she was trapped in a loop anyway, going nowhere. What did she have to lose? She brought the Peterbilt to a halt. The 12 trucks behind her stopped in perfect synchronization. Rita turned off the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. She sat in the darkness, forcing her breathing to slow, forcing her panic down. She looked in her mirrors at the convoy of herself. I'm not afraid of you, she said aloud. You're just me. You're echoes. You're not real. One by one, the trucks behind her began to fade, their headlights dimming and disappearing. The CB went silent. The oppressive darkness lifted slightly. When all the echo trucks were gone, Rita started her engine. She put the truck in gear and began driving again, slowly, carefully. She passed a mile marker, mile 149. The moon began giving light again. Her headlights returned to their normal brightness. She picked up her radio and it was just static, normal static with no voices. Rita drove through the night in silence. She reached Dead Horse at 9:15 a.m., delivered her load, and immediately turned around for the return trip. She crossed Atagun Pass going south at 2:30 p.m. Daylight, surrounded by a construction crew working on the road and 2 other truckers making the same journey. Nothing unusual happened. But Rita never drove the Dalton Highway at night again. She adjusted her schedule to ensure she crossed Atagun Pass during daylight hours, even if it meant layovers or waiting for dawn. Other drivers noticed and asked why. She never explained. Sometimes, though, when she's driving other roads, when she's alone and it's dark, she hears her own voice on the CB. Just a whisper, barely audible under the static. Mile 148, mile 148, mile 148. And she wonders how many versions of herself are still trapped there, driving an endless loop through darkness, adding to the echo with every pass, waiting for the fear to finally fade enough to let them through. She wonders if every truck that's ever disappeared on the Dalton is still there somehow, echoing in that space between mile 148 and mile 149, a ghost convoy of the lost, driving through a darkness that never ends. Story 3. The Refreezing. Marcus Webb had been hauling supplies across Lake Winnipeg's winter ice road for 8 years. The 73-kilometer route from Gimli to Grand Rapids was an essential supply line for remote communities in Manitoba, and Marcus took pride in being one of the most reliable drivers on the route. At 36, he was young for the job, but he'd earned respect from the older drivers through sheer competence and a cool head in dangerous situations. He'd been through ice breaks, whiteouts, and equipment failures that would have left other drivers stranded, and he'd always made it through. January 22, 2022 was supposed to be his last run of the season. The ice road was scheduled to close in 3 days as temperatures began to rise, weakening the ice. Marcus was driving his 2020 Western Star 4900, loaded with construction materials for a school renovation in Grand Rapids. 25 tons of lumber, drywall, and insulation. He'd left Gimli at 5 a.m. planning to reach Grand Rapids by noon, unload, and make it back before dark. The ice conditions that morning were good, or so the report said. 78 centimeters of solid ice across the entire route, well above the minimum safe thickness. The temperature was minus 23 degrees Celsius, and the forecast showed it staying cold for the next 5 days. Plenty of safety margin. Marcus knew Lake Winnipeg well. In summer, it was a vast body of water, one of the largest lakes in Canada, stretching 436 kilometers from north to south. In winter, it became a frozen highway, although you always had to respect it. The lake was shallow in many places, only 4 to 5 meters deep, which meant the ice formed thick and fast. But it also meant pressure ridges were common, and there were sections where springs kept the water warmer, creating weak spots that could open unexpectedly. He'd been driving for about 90 minutes, roughly 40 kilometers from Gimli, when he first noticed something odd. The ice beneath his tires made a sound he'd never heard before. Not the usual groaning and creaking, this was different. A sort of singing note, high-pitched and clear like crystal resonating. It came from all around the truck, not just from directly under the wheels. Marcus slowed from his cruising speed of 40 kilometers per hour to 25, giving himself more time to react if something was wrong. He scanned the ice surface ahead through his windshield. Everything looked normal. Smooth, snow-covered ice with the tire tracks from previous trucks creating a visible road. The marker poles were all in place, spaced every 100 meters to mark the safe route. The singing continued, growing slightly louder. It reminded Marcus of the sound when you run a wet finger around the rim of a wine glass, that pure, vibrating tone. But this was coming from ice, from millions of tons of frozen water beneath and around him. He grabbed his CB radio. Any truck on Lake Winnipeg Ice Road, this is Marcus Webb at approximately kilometer 40. Anyone else hearing unusual ice sounds? After a moment, a woman's voice responded. This is Sarah Chen, about 20 kilometers ahead of you, Webb. What kind of sounds? Hard to describe. High-pitched like singing, almost musical. A pause. Not hearing anything unusual up here. Ice sounds normal. You might be passing over a pressure area. Watch for ridges. Copy that. We'll keep an eye out. Marcus continued forward, but the singing didn't stop. If anything, it grew more complex, like multiple tones layering over each other. He could feel it now, not just hear it. A vibration coming up through the frame of the truck, through the seat, subtle but unmistakable. He checked his mirrors and saw something that made him stop breathing for a moment. Behind him, the ice was changing. The tire tracks he'd just made, the compressed snow in his wake, were doing something impossible. They were refilling, smoothing out, returning to pristine snow cover, but it wasn't just filling. It was refreezing before his eyes. He could see the water vapor rising where his tires had been, the ice surface crystallizing fresh and new. Marcus stopped the truck and got out, something you weren't supposed to do on an ice road, but he had to see this up close. The cold hit him like a physical blow, 23 below, and a wind that cut through his parka. He walked back 5 meters and knelt beside his fresh tire tracks. As he watched, ice crystals formed in the compressed snow, growing rapidly, weaving together like they were alive. Within 30 seconds, the tracks were completely gone, the surface as smooth as if no truck had ever passed. The singing was louder out here, clearer. It was definitely coming from the ice itself, from beneath the surface. Marcus put his hand on the ice. It was cold, obviously, but there was something else. It was vibrating, pulsing with a rhythm that wasn't quite regular. Like a heartbeat, but slower and with an extra beat every third cycle. Boom, 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 boom. He stood and looked around. The lake stretched to the horizon in all directions, a vast white plain under a pale winter sky. Nothing moved except wind-driven snow. No other vehicles in sight, though he could see distant marker poles marching into the distance. The ice beneath his feet sang. Marcus got back in his truck, unnerved but not yet frightened. Ice did strange things sometimes. Maybe this was some effect of the temperature or pressure waves in the water below, or something else with a perfectly rational explanation. He'd report it when he got to Grand Rapids, let the ice road maintenance crew know. They could investigate. He put the truck in gear and continued forward. Within 5 minutes, he noticed his GPS was acting strangely. The coordinates kept flickering, changing by small amounts. His position would show kilometer 40.2, then jump to 40.7, then back to 40.4. His speed showed steady at 25 kilometers per hour, but the distance traveled wasn't adding up correctly. The singing grew louder, and now Marcus could hear words in it. Not spoken words, more like the suggestion of words. Syllables hidden in the resonance. He couldn't make them out clearly, but they were there, repeating in rhythm with that irregular heartbeat of the ice. Boom, 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 his CB crackled. "Webb, this is Chen. What's your position now?" Marcus checked his GPS. Somewhere around kilometer 41. My GPS is glitching." "That's impossible. I'm at kilometer 62 and I haven't passed you. You should be behind me." Marcus looked ahead. He could see something in the distance now, a dark shape on the ice. As he got closer, he realized it was a truck. Sarah Chen's truck, maybe. But according to her, she was 22 kilometers ahead. "Chen, I'm coming up on a truck. Is that you ahead?" "Negative, Webb. Like I said, I'm way ahead of you. There shouldn't be anyone between us." Marcus approached the stationary truck. It was a Western Star 4900, identical to his. Same model year, same configuration, same company livery. He slowed as he pulled alongside, looking up at the cab. Empty. The truck was running, engine idling, lights on, but no one was inside. Marcus stopped and got out, the singing of the ice now so loud it was almost overwhelming. He approached the empty truck and looked inside. On the seat was a clipboard with a manifest, the manifest for the exact load he was carrying. Lumber, drywall, insulation for Grand Rapids. His name was at the top of the form, his signature at the bottom. This was his truck. Marcus turned and looked back at his own Western Star, still running, vapor streaming from its exhaust. Then he looked at the empty one. Both trucks were identical. Both were his. The ice singing resolved into words suddenly clear and unmistakable. Refreezing, repeat, refreezing. Marcus ran back to his truck and climbed into the cab, slamming the door. His hand shook as he grabbed the CB. Chen, something's very wrong here. I found another truck. It's mine. It's another copy of my truck." Static then. "Webb, this is Chen. What's your position now?" "I don't know. Kilometer 40-something, didn't you just hear what I said? Webb, this is Chen. What's your position now? The same words, same inflection like a recording playing. Marcus cycled through CB channels. Every channel had Sarah Chen's voice asking the same question. Webb, this is Chen. What's your position now? He looked in his mirrors. The empty truck behind him was gone, just vanished. In its place, the ice was unmarked as if no trucks had ever been there at all. Marcus floored the accelerator and his Western Star leapt forward 40, 50, 60 kilometers per hour. Too fast for ice road conditions, but he didn't care. He had to get off this lake, had to reach Grand Rapids or turn back to Gimli, didn't matter which, just had to get away from whatever was happening. The ice singing became a roar, and Marcus realized it wasn't just sound anymore. The ice itself was doing something. Through his windshield, he could see the surface ahead of him rippling, waves passing through solid ice like it was water. Not cracks, the ice wasn't breaking, it was flowing, moving, alive. A marker pole sank into the ice as he watched, swallowed like it was quicksand, disappearing without a trace. Another pole rose up from smooth ice where there had been nothing, extruding upward from the surface. His GPS showed kilometer 40. Still 40. He'd been driving at high speed for 10 minutes and hadn't advanced at all. Marcus slammed on his brakes and the Western Star skidded to a halt. Through his windshield, he saw himself. Not a reflection. Another Marcus Webb, standing on the ice 20 meters ahead, wearing the same clothes, the same parka. The other Marcus was gesturing, waving his arms, trying to signal something. Marcus opened his door and stepped out. The ice was still singing, and now he understood the words completely. Refreezing. Repeat. Refreezing. Time loops here. Ice remembers, everything repeats, refreezing. What's happening? Marcus shouted across the ice. The other Marcus cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted back, but the words were wrong. They came before the other Marcus opened his mouth. Marcus heard, I've been here 3 days. About 2 seconds before the other Marcus spoke them. Time was broken here. Marcus looked around desperately and saw more figures on the ice. More versions of himself scattered across the frozen lake. A dozen at least, all at different distances, all moving in different time streams. One was climbing into a truck that wasn't there yet. One was kneeling on ice that showed a massive crack, though when Marcus looked at the actual ice, it was solid. One was running, terrified, away from something invisible. They were all him. All Marcus Webb, all trapped in different moments, different time frames, all happening simultaneously on this section of Lake Winnipeg. The ice was recording them, freezing them in time and replaying them over and over, refreezing. Marcus understood suddenly. The ice was doing exactly what frozen water always did, preserving things. But something had gone wrong here, some quirk of physics or break in reality. The ice wasn't just preserving objects, it was preserving moments, events, time itself. And once frozen in the ice's memory, those moments played back, echoed, repeated endlessly. He looked at his truck and saw it flickering, phasing between states. Sometimes it was loaded, sometimes empty, sometimes damaged, sometimes pristine. The ice was showing him every state his truck had ever been in, every moment it had existed on this lake. How do I get out? Marcus screamed, not sure which version of himself he was asking. The nearest other Marcus, about 10 meters away, pointed south, back toward Gimli. Drive backward, in reverse. It's the only way, trust me, I figured it out. Marcus got back in his truck, shifted into reverse, and started backing up. It felt wrong, unnatural, dangerous. He couldn't see well going backward, especially at any speed. But he accelerated anyway, checking his mirrors, steering by instinct. The singing changed pitch, becoming deeper, angrier. The ice didn't want him going backward. It wanted him to continue forward, to keep adding to the loop, to freeze more moments for its eternal collection. Marcus kept his foot down, reversing at 30 kilometers per hour. His GPS started counting down. Kilometer 39, 38, 37. He was making progress. The other Marcus versions appeared in his path. He drove through them and they vanished like smoke, echoes, memories frozen in ice. Not real anymore if they ever had been. Kilometer 35, 30, 25. The singing faded. The vibration stopped. Marcus looked at the ice surface and saw it was normal again. His tire tracks stayed compressed, didn't refreeze. Time was moving properly. At kilometer 15, Marcus turned his truck around and continued in reverse all the way back to Gimli. He drove backward for an hour straight, not trusting that turning around would keep him safe. Only when he saw the lights of Gimli did he stop, turn around properly and drive forward the last kilometer to shore. He reported to the ice road office that there was something wrong with the ice at kilometer 40, something dangerous. He couldn't explain it properly, and his report sounded insane even to his own ears. They sent a crew out to investigate. The crew found nothing unusual. Perfect ice conditions, 78 centimeters thick, no cracks, no weak spots. They declared the road safe, but Marcus never drove the Lake Winnipeg ice road again. He took other routes, other jobs. He heard later that season that Sarah Chen had disappeared. Her truck was found abandoned on the ice at kilometer 41, engine running, load intact. She was never seen again. Marcus sometimes wonders if she's still there, trapped in the ice's memory, repeating the same moments forever in the refreezing. He wonders how many drivers before him got caught in that loop and never escaped. He wonders if the ice is still there in summer under the water, still singing its impossible song, still freezing moments in time, waiting for winter to return so it can collect more memories, more echoes. And on cold nights, even though he's nowhere near Lake Winnipeg, Marcus sometimes hears it. That high, clear singing note, the sound of ice that remembers everything, ice that never fully melts, ice that's learned to trap time itself. Boom, 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 the heartbeat of frozen time, still pulsing somewhere beneath the water, waiting to refreeze.